People already knew about remote working in the pre-COVID era, but the pandemic has transformed it into a norm today. That is why the hashtag for this event is the new normal. Similarly, other aspects of Industry 4.0 or digitalization have been adopted by many enterprises to survive, to sustain, and to succeed in the new normal. Whether it is for front-end processes or for back-end support, technology can make manufacturing organizations more efficient, more agile, and more relevant, and all this while adding value to all the stakeholders. Enterprises today understand that technology is a must to ensure that their shop floors and their people keep running in the right direction and at the right pace. It is in this light that the Future Factory Now webinar will deliberate on the winning strategies for manufacturing in the new normal. For this webinar, we have lined up two interesting sessions with two expert speakers. We start today's webinar with an insightful and informative presentation by Mr. Graham Cox, who is the Business Transformation Manager with PTC UK. All yours, Graham.
I'm Cox here from PTC. I'm based in the UK. Actually, my role is covering all of the PTC EMEA region, which includes India. So I'm delighted to say that I've had the opportunity to visit India last year to work with our colleagues there and some of our customers as well. So delighted to have this opportunity to speak to you this afternoon. I'm just going to try and share my presentation. So as we said in the introduction, the theme of the presentation today is about accelerating the digital transformation. This is the role that I'm performing with PTC and with our customers, looking very much not only at the technology in the Industry 4.0 domain that they can implement into their operations and into their business, but also looking at the business transformation aspects, tying the technology closely to the business challenges that our customers are facing, and actually bringing this together to deliver value into their operations. We know that over the last year, the last 12 months, there's been huge challenges faced by many manufacturing organizations as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. This has made a big difference, a big impact to many of our customers, to all of their business operations. But this has actually been quite an impetus, a reason to look again at the digital capabilities that we can deploy to address some of these challenges. Before even the pandemic, we were working closely with customers around this business impact first approach, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll talk also about how we can work with our customers to drive value from digital transformation in manufacturing to get to a scale operation rapidly. And I have some customer success stories that we can talk about as well. And I hope you'll forgive me. I'll take the opportunity about blowing PTC's trumpet about why we are the best partners to work with in this area. So looking first at the market trends at a macro level, the global economic level, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic, some aspects of the global oil disputes, disruption in the supply chain and market demand, this has had a huge effect on manufacturing operations right across the world. In some cases, companies, our customers have seen reduction in demand for their products and services. They're operating below capacity. In some cases, they've looked at reacting to that situation by changing their product mix, potentially even changing completely the sector into which they are delivering their products and changing over to different product mixes. The operational efficiency and robustness, this has always been a main driver in looking at digital transformation and how this can be deployed. This has really been exacerbated over the last 12 months because of the challenges to international travel, challenges to getting the right skills of the right people into the right place. And this is, as I said, sort of forced people to look again at what we can do with digital technologies to address this. This is really the new normal I think we were talking about in the introduction to this session. There's challenges in the workforce, with plants potentially being shut down, unable to get workforce actually into the plant or out to the customers as well. So remote working, looking at ways to reduce contact and improve safety, health and safety aspects has been a big part of what we've been working with customers on over the last 12 months. But underlying all of this, the basis of every transformation project is to link it into the profit and loss impact of that operational performance. So we at PTC, we've worked quite closely with the World Economic Forum, the global sort of non-government organization that brings together a lot of industry specialists and academia, as well as technology vendors. They've done a survey, the World Economic Forum, that you can sort of see the results of here. That on the left, where manufacturing enterprises have focused on the KPIs, the main financial outputs that they're able to realize through digital transformation in manufacturing, these lighthouse implementations have reported, some very significant benefits in areas like factory output, of productivity, of OEE increase. That's the performance, the availability and quality of their manufacturing operations. And double-digit KPI improvement has been realized in many of these cases. However, on the right, as we see in many other cases, although there's many pilots running, typically around an average of 8 different digital transformation projects running in any manufacturing organization, only about a quarter of those actually make it through the pilot stage into business as usual, into production realization of those benefits. So what's the reason behind that? Why are those pilots not scaling, not actually getting into the normal operations of the business? And really what we found by working with our customers and sort of trying to address the root cause of this, in many cases, although there is a technology-led approach into the pilots of things like industrial Internet of Things and augmented reality, and those things are obviously important. We have to prove with our customers that the technology is robust and that it will work and that we can connect into their machine assets, etc. If we only do that and we miss the value-led part of the engagement, then we can end up in a situation where there's a lack of clarity in the organization. There's no high-level view of the financial impact and the return on investment. We need also, obviously, to focus on the people aspects. Sometimes it's difficult to free up the right people with the right experience from their day job, from their normal operations, to dedicate some time and their knowledge and experience to make sure that we are addressing the right problem. And also the operational aspects. This is where we've tried to create what we call high-value, repeatable use cases. From experience from working with our solutions development team internally within PTC, to actually sort of package capabilities together into something that's easy for our customers to adopt, easy to deploy, and linked back directly into these people and financial objectives. We've developed a set of methodologies, if you like, ways in which we can drive workshops and conversations with our customers in this area. And this is very much part of what me and my team have been doing over the last 18 months or so, that we not only look at the technology aspects of the solution, but that we also have a conversation with many different stakeholders across our customers, different lines of business, different skill sets, to get everybody aligned and to get everybody working to the same high-level impact of the solution. And it really drives down to these 3 things. How do we identify the high-level impacts? How do we realize that at speed? and then how do we scale up that solution, not just from the pilot environment, but onto multiple production lines, multiple sites, etc. When it comes down to the high-level goals that I was talking about, it really boils down to these three major areas. So customers may be wanting to look at improving their top-line revenue, looking at the ways in which they can improve manufacturing output, productivity, in order to drive higher sales and drive higher revenue. Another approach is to look at, without necessarily driving a higher production rate, but actually minimizing costs, minimizing operating costs in labor, in materials, in overheads, particularly energy costs are a strong focus area. And by doing that, driving a better margin through the business. And on the right, there's the third aspect, which is asset efficiency. That is to say, within the same production assets that are available within the business, driving those to their optimum levels of performance, maximizing their availability, minimizing the unplanned downtime. And by doing that, we're able to drive better operational efficiency through the business without the need for additional high levels of capital expenditure to set up additional product lines and so on. So to put that in context of an example, of the middle factor I was talking about there, the decrease of operating costs, we tend to have these sort of workshops, as I say, with our customers in the early stage of their projects. And in this case, we are focusing down on the planned and unplanned downtime of the manufacturing capability. And if that is the case, if that's the main focus of the customer, we have these packaged capabilities that I spoke about, these high-value use cases, which can address directly into that operational bottleneck. So things like asset monitoring and utilization, where we're able to connect to the production assets, with the PTC ThingWorx solution and Kepware, we've got the ability to connect to multiple assets within the shop floor, many different adapters and connectors that we can put in place to get real-time data feeds from the production system to give insight, to give understanding and insight into the production operations. And we've also got what we call predictive maintenance, where we can apply machine learning to spot trends and patterns within the production process, which gives us the ability to anticipate where problems are likely to occur, to intervene with predictive maintenance rather than just on a sort of reactive or a scheduled maintenance basis. By doing that, reducing unplanned downtime. So that could often be, I spoke about the sort of the scaling of this. This could be the first priority, but it's not necessarily the only one. So having looked at that first priority with the customer, we can then move on to the next wave, if you like, the next set of operational bottlenecks in terms of productivity of people. How is it possible to drive better productivity, to give support to the manufacturing operations team, to remove things like paper-based processes, to give digital instructions that are up to date, that are linked back to the latest stage of engineering change or configuration information. And also to look at things like quality rework and process waste. And this is, something that I'm working closely with a number of customers here in Europe at the moment, where production demand may have dropped in some of our customers because of the pandemic. There's still a big focus on quality and cost reduction through reduction of scrap and waste materials. Using the same technology, but not to drive higher production, but to reduce costs through better quality. And there at the overall top level, we see, we can drive these use cases into those operational bottlenecks to deliver cost savings and to decrease the cost of goods sold. We have a number of customers examples here, and on the ptc.com website, we've got further case studies that you can go and read if you want to get more detail on these things. But this is the sort of examples where we've worked with these customers, we've prioritized their bottlenecks. We've understood the main focus of their business operations, the challenges they're trying to address, and use that to drive it into the specific impact areas that you see there on the right. In another example, we have here, a furniture manufacturer that we worked with. In their case, their priority was the increased revenue that I spoke about earlier. Using the same sort of use cases, but in this case for a different expected operational outcome of driving higher volume output and cost reduction as well. And we have an example here with a CPG manufacturer. I'll talk about this a little later on with the example I've got a little later on. But here in this case, the focus was across all three areas. Increased overall equipment effectiveness, OEE, looking at the avoidance of capital expenditure, and also to increase revenue by $50 million per year. Sometimes I have to say it's sensitive information for our customers to share with us their internal financial information, and I do understand that. It's very much something that's tied into competitive advantage within the company, but we do have some ways to talk about this in a way that's not going to compromise that. We can talk about estimates, we can talk about typical labour rates in the industry sector that they're operating. So, it helps to get these final quantifications and numbers, but I do understand that sometimes that information can be very sensitive. If we move on to the next aspect, which is the speed. We talked about the impact, the speed here. On the left-hand side, you see, a key part of our engagement with customers is not to rip and replace existing manufacturing systems. Things like the existing MES manufacturing execution system, existing ERP systems, for production control. We found a way to actually work to wrap and extend into these systems. Our ThingWorx platform has an ability to integrate and to gather data from those existing systems to give a single source of truth across the whole production landscape. And that's very much part of what we look to do to improve the speed of the implementation. The solutions I talked about, the ability to package these capabilities, these are known and understood priorities for our customers. So we've bundled these into things like intelligence asset optimization, into the digital workforce productivity that I talked about, using things like Euphoria augmented reality to provide digital work instructions into the workforce, to be able to capture expertise, knowledge, process information from experienced operators, and to then pass that on very quickly on to new people coming into the team. We do also have on the right-hand side some very well-respected, trusted partners that we work with across our ecosystem. I'm working closely with a number of these in Europe, and I know our colleagues in India have a good working relationship with some of our industry partners who can bring their expertise, their knowledge into the complete business transformation process, the change process, the IT infrastructure that's required, the holistic set of capabilities that we can deploy to support the deployment of the solution. The other thing I was going to mention on the speed is sometimes it takes time to get the IT infrastructure in place within a manufacturing site, a manufacturing plant, and then to scale that across multiple production lines, multiple sites. So the software as a service solution that we've now developed, called Factory Insights as a Service, this has been developed with our partners at Microsoft, based on the Microsoft Azure cloud architecture and also Microsoft IoT Edge solutions. So this sort of takes away the need for a big investment or a big deployment of IT solutions on site, on premises within the customer. we can actually provide the same thing through the SaaS availability through Factory Insights as a service. And this, again, sort of will increase the speed of deployment and increase the time to value. So bringing these things all together, along the top here, we can run this project deployment in the way that I talked about, of the identifying the value, aligning the priorities. It's important to get the executive commitment within the customer so that all the stakeholders have got the same common view of the objectives and the benefits that will be realized. Moving into a proof of value implementation and scaling out based on different waves of capability, as I spoke about before. And we're keen to work with our customers to identify the best sequence of events here in these different waves, the best priorities that can come into place. Along the bottom, obviously there's the normal sort of program design and program governance processes that need to go through for any sort of solution implementation. But the point here is that these things need to be run in parallel, and we've got a lot of experience now of doing this. I spoke about our partner ecosystem. Again, this is very important, I think, in bringing all of the different skills and experience to bear. We're partnered closely with Microsoft, as I mentioned. We've also got a big global partnership with Rockwell Automation. From Rockwell's side, they've got huge experience and installed base across the world in factory automation systems, manufacturing execution systems, and now they are working very much with PTC in our industry automation, IoT, and augmented reality solutions as well. We're working closely with system integrators, management consulting partners, technical partners who've got specialist skills, if it's particularly around some sort of machine connectivity and so on. And bringing all these together, this is key to driving that speed of implementation. Moving on to some customer examples. Trying to bring this to life is always useful with some customer examples. So, we've worked with a company called Pactive. They were looking at throughput loss due to quality problems. Using this approach we spoke about, we've been able to address that, and they've realised a significant 50% decrease in throughput losses as a result of that. CIMC in China, they were actually able to roll out the solution across 10 sites in less than 1 year using this sort of approach of replication of the capability from one site to the next. And also with Carlsberg breweries globally, they've taken this approach. They started with just one of their sites, tested out all of the capabilities, proved the value of it, and then sort of took a replication approach to put the same system in place across all of their operations. 17 have now gone live, but at a rate of 1 additional factory per month coming online. For PTC, we're very proud of the industry-leading recognition we've received, from industry analysts. You can see there we've got a rating as an industry leader in this sector by 21 different industry reports from various analysts, Forrester, ABI, Gartner, etc. We've got a very strong recognition from our partners as well, from Rockwell, from Microsoft, as I mentioned. We've got a lot of awards of being their Partners of the Year for the last couple of years. And we're also working a lot with academic and business leaders like the Harvard Business Review, Acadtech in Europe, Boston Consulting Group, etc. This is about sort of thought leadership, looking at what's coming next and how we can actually optimize technology into new solutions to deploy into this area. A couple of more detail on some, very specific customer success stories. We worked with Volvo Group. They pride themselves on the quality. This is largely in their truck and bus division. They pride themselves on the quality and the service their customers in this domain, and they've put a lot of effort into sort of customization of their engines to suit different markets and different customers, which is great for their market differentiation, but it does cause a problem of complexity, particularly in their quality inspections. They have something like 4,500 different engine variants within one plant. That meant that their paper-based quality inspection system, quality assurance, became very complex. It was a paper-based system. It was very difficult to keep that up to date with the number of engine variants and different configuration standards. And training new people onto this quality process took about 5 weeks just to get somebody trained up onto the quality inspection process, which, because of their rate of production, it had to be done, within 8 minutes to perform 40 different quality checks. So we work closely with Volvo, as I say, in the areas we spoke about. They've put a lot of effort into the management of their different engine configurations and how this can be visualized into the quality team using the Vuforia augmented reality solution. As you can see there, it's sort of run through a sort of handheld tablet. So at the quality inspection, you're able to overlay 3D and quality inspection data through the tablet directly onto the physical engine. This is actually also a closed loop feedback, because non-conformances or defects can actually be fed back through this system back into the engineering department to resolve any problems, in future production runs. We've also worked with a customer called ECST. This is also in the automotive sector. They are specialists in powertrain and braking systems into the automotive industry, based in Belgium. And this is actually a case where one of our partners was sort of leading the project with the customer, a partner called Adeltima in Europe. And working with the customer on this, they've put a lot of effort again into the integration of their engineering and manufacturing systems. Going back to this point about the not wanting to rip and replace existing systems, they've used ThingWorx at ECST to bring together data from their existing MES and ERP systems, also from their engineering and PLM systems, to get the standards of configuration and engineering change data, passing that again through into their quality teams, having this closed loop between engineering and manufacturing, focusing on quality improvements. And by doing that, they've been able to improve their time to market by predicting a 25% reduction in the change time for that change process of new products coming into their production. They've also, by the way, had this environmental standard that they've had to now adhere to around noise and vibration of equipment. And that's another interesting application, actually, of how we can start to monitor these things within the production process to ensure that we are working with our customers to adhere to these environmental standards as well. I talked a little about the partner ecosystem. This is really about bringing together deep industry expertise to get that faster time to value. And we'd be very happy to talk to any of our customers to talk about where we can bring the right team into the project to really get the right expertise and to really drive that speed. So in summary, I've taken a bit of a whistle-stop tour there through some of the ways in which we're working with customers to address some of the challenges that they've faced over the last 12 months. I think the combination of things, the reaction to the pandemic situation, and the well-known background need to drive competitive advantage. This is really starting to cause a great impetus in our customers to look again at digital transformation solutions, and not just how we improve the technology, but how we get this rapidly into their business as usual operations. I spoke about needing to move to this sort of parallel approach of prioritizing the business challenge and the impact to drive business value in parallel with the need to drive the proof of technology, if you like. and how we can bring together different use cases to implement quickly and to drive that scale. That's really what I had today. We'd very much like to follow up with conversations with anybody, and I think we're going to move now into the sort of Q&A section and the further discussion with the rest of the team.
Thank you, Graham. That was indeed very insightful. As they say, great brands are all about great customer studies. And through your customer studies, you have actually shown why PTC is what PTC is. Extremely relevant to understand from you about the three key pillars of business success: impact, speed, and scale. I'm sure our audiences will have a lot of good things to take away from our session today here. In case our audiences have any questions, they can share those questions with us in the chat. We will present them to our speakers. Now, let me bring in our next speaker for the day. That is Mr. Raj Kiran C, Senior Director, PTC India. Welcome, Raj.
Yeah, hi Niranjan. Hi everybody. Pleasure to be amongst you all.
Yeah, friends, I have the pleasure of engaging with these two highly knowledgeable gentlemen in an interesting fireside chat to talk about the new normal. And as I mentioned earlier, please share your questions in the chat. Our experts will definitely take them at the end of the session. Raj, let's get on with our discussion. I think Graham has given us a very good start. COVID-19 is something that we cannot do away with immediately right now. Do you think this pandemic has actually accelerated the adoption of digitalization and Industry 4.0 in the Indian manufacturing industry today?
So generally, India as a geography, because of our lower labor costs, we've been used to prioritizing people spending or labor spending over technology spending, generally. But with all the restrictions we had in the past 12 to 13 months, 12 months, we've not been able to get people to the places that they needed to go to. Okay, and therefore we see a tremendous pickup in the industry on these technologies that help them remotely manage, remotely service, remotely monitor their factories, as well as remotely collaborate and assist their counterparts in other parts of the geography in other cities through augmented reality technology, which Graham talked about. So the answer is yes, there is a good improvement in the number of conversations, credible conversations we've been having with customers. I think COVID-19 has accelerated the digital transformation plans of all the customers, pretty much of all the manufacturers. They believe that this, like you said, COVID is here to stay, and therefore we've got to make sure we live with it and find ways of managing our business along with COVID. So yes, both IoT and AR have seen massive adoption.
Graham, you want to add something to that from the Western point of view?
Yeah, we've seen some very clear examples of this with customers I've been working with recently. For example, I'm working with a customer who is not only a manufacturer, but they actually do a lot of service work with their machines once they're installed with their customers. And, they've deployed a sort of remote augmented assistance tool that we provided to them with Vuforia, so that they're, based on these travel restrictions that Raj mentioned, they can't get the right experts with the right certification to the right equipment. So they're using the augmented reality tool to drive that remotely, and there's been a big take-up of that over the last 12 months.
Okay, having the intention of starting this journey of digital transformation is one thing, but taking this journey is another. What are the key challenges that you think manufacturing companies would have to deal with while undertaking this journey, and how can a company like PTC help them?
Graham, do you want to take that first? Then I can add on.
Yeah, Graham, my question is to you actually.
Yeah, I think it's back to what I was saying in the presentation, really. we're trying to prioritize the focus on the business challenge with the customer in the different areas that I spoke about. And having established that, we can then drive down into the particular, use cases and solutions and, drive it that way in the prioritized wave of different capabilities that I spoke about. And by having that sort of structure and that sort of common understanding with all the different departments in the customer, that gives a very clear plan that we can work to.
And talking about challenges in the India market, I think Ram talked about the ecosystem approach that PTC adopts. And in a lot of surveys, we've seen that 80 to 90%, or probably even more, companies have digital transformation on their roadmap. They want to do it at some point. They just don't know how and where to start. And that's where the ecosystem maturity comes into play. At the moment, we are on the path to having a mature ecosystem. We're getting there, and that's quite important and vital.
All right. Graham, my next question is to you, actually. We live in what is now known as the VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And disruptions are kind of the new normal. And while digital transformation definitely helps us in dealing with these disruptions, at the end of the day, technology is only a tool. What is important is that we need to have the right kind of mindsets to adopt the technology. Do you agree with me here? And I would like to refer to one of the last slides that you showed where you talked about the journey from technology first to value first. Grant?
Yeah, I agree. I think it is that mindset. We've seen from the experience, some customers we've worked with have had several attempts, several iterations over the past, 4 or 5 years to deploy this kind of solution. And it hasn't always worked because there's this disconnect between, what is the technology capable of on one side, and then what is the actual business problem we're trying to fix on the other side. And it's bringing those two together. I think that's the mindset you're talking about, Niranjan, in bringing these two together. And by taking that approach, we can sort of start again. And we've actually now, with some customers who've maybe had some failed or delayed projects in the past, we've actually been able to move it forward into a real production implementation.
Raj, you want to add to that?
No, I think he pretty much covered it all.
Okay, fair enough. Guys, one of the major issues that companies faced during the pandemic was supply chain disruptions because of the obvious reasons. The physical borders were absolutely sealed, and literally so. How do you think digitalization can help companies overcome this?
Do you want to take that, Raj, or shall I jump in?
Go ahead. You can talk about the UK ventilator challenge.
Yeah.
Home to you, Ram?
That's a great example, Raj. Yeah. Going back to this sort of disruption that we've all experienced over the last year. The UK government identified at the start of the pandemic that there was going to be a shortage in the UK health system of the hospital ventilators that would be required to treat patients who were badly affected by COVID-19. They looked at the anticipated numbers and there just weren't enough ventilator machines available within the health service. So they put out a call to action to the top sort of manufacturing companies in the UK, people like GKN, Aerospace was one of them, and there was a whole consortium of manufacturers, and PTC was invited to join this as well. What was done was basically there was a design standard, because obviously these ventilators, they're quite highly certified. You can't just put any old machine into a hospital and expect it to work. There's some quite strict standards of certification. So the process of manufacture and assembly was quite strictly regulated. So we actually worked with Smiths Industries, was one of the companies in this consortium. They have this certified design standard for the ventilator. We worked with Smiths Industries to capture, using the augmented reality steps we spoke about, to capture the expert knowledge of their team, and then to distribute that to other manufacturers like GKN, who were then able to very rapidly switch their production equipment from their standard aerospace production into this ventilator production process. And that was a hugely successful project. We were able to very rapidly get that scaled up to train new manufacturing engineers, manufacturing operators on this ventilator production process. And that's again a story you can read about on the PTC website.
Thank you, guys. Raj mentioned about augmented reality as a great tool to help during these times. Would you like to share a couple of examples with us, Graham, where you have used augmented reality to help your customers?
Yeah, that one I just mentioned was a key one that we've done with over the last year. But even before the pandemic, we've been working in this area. As I mentioned, a key area for this, a key opportunity is around remote expert assistance. We're working where both in the fields of manufacturing operations. If you have typically we've worked with customers who've got specialist maintenance teams who cover the whole global operation, of specialist maintenance processes on manufacturing equipment. We've worked with companies like Toyota who've actually used our augmented reality to do this remotely. You don't necessarily always need to send the expert team internationally, on the expensive international trips to actually do the maintenance or commissioning of equipment into remote sites. And that's been one area, but also into the service and the aftermarket domain as well. When machines are out in use by the customers of our customers, again, we've got the same ability to through augmented reality have remote expert assistance and to speed up the reaction time, to improve the first time fix rate, and to reduce the overall cost of those operations.
And even in the India market, there was significant adoption of the remote assistance and collaboration tool that we've got, as well as discussions with major companies about offering enhanced training and enhanced servicing, etc., with a tool with which a new joinee within a company can learn from the experts the way a particular machine can be operated or a procedure can be documented, etc. And therefore, visually learning it for the specific task in front of the new joinee is infinitely powerful when you use augmented reality technology. So a lot of credible discussions, particularly accelerated by pandemic again.
Thanks, Graham, and thanks, Raj. Raj, my final question is to you, actually. It's more because it's more in the Indian context. Atmanirbhar Bharat or self-reliant India is a buzzword today. And digitalization is all about having the right kind of solutions for the manufacturing industry, which basically means that you need to have a smart factory. So do you think smart factories, or as our theme says, future factory now, will have a big role in supporting the Atmanirbhar Abhiyan or the Self-Reliant India campaign?
Interesting question. I think smart factories mean efficient factories. Smart factories mean factories in which actions are driven by data, factories in which people are empowered with insights to take and perform tasks better and more efficiently with AR at their disposal, for example. All in all, smart factories are self-sufficient factories. So having self-sufficient factories and self-reliant people is one more step towards making India self-sufficient and self-reliant. And I think there was 5 pillars of stated initiatives under the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign. As more and more factories become smart, the IT infrastructure of the country will improve. With the need for the internet backhaul to be that much better to manage the amount of data and insights that are going across the internet backhaul. That is a stated initiative under Atmanirbhar to have the IT infrastructure improvements. then the economies of scales will kick in, and generally more tech adoption will happen in all spheres, not just in the smart factory area, but also in any area. People will know that technology makes their life easier. So that's also going to help the Atmanirbhar campaign, because that's another pillar that's there. And overall, I think, so therefore, yes, it is going to help the Atmanirbhar campaign. And overall, I think tech adoption will make the lives of people easier and simpler. So I think it's a win-win.
Fantastic, Raj. Very well answered. And I think that makes a lot of sense in the context of what's happening in our country today. Gentlemen, it has been wonderful chatting with you. Let me ask my colleague at the back end if we have some questions so that we can put them up for our experts.
So I'll read the questions on my chat window. It's not yet appeared.
All right. So talking generally, Raj, in terms of trends, do you see any particular industry sector taking a lead as far as digitalization goes in our country, whether it is automotive or aerospace? Do you see any particular segment that takes a lead here?
Yeah, that's a question we get often. We see no sectoral trends as such. I mean, there
right.
there can be the visionaries in every single sector, and it really depends on who is prioritizing cost reductions for a start, as well as top line improvements later. So we see early adopters, because PTC has been in that area in the past. The discrete manufacturers, automotive OEMs and tier ones, etc., have adopted. They form 50% of our clientele, but we've also got a lot of adoption we see in recent times in the pharmaceutical companies, electronics and high tech, medical devices, etc. So there's no real sectoral trend, Niranjan. We see it across industries, and it's really the visionary companies in each of these sectors which will take the first step and drive the technology adoption trend.
Great. Graham, I have one last question for you before we close the session. One of the most important aspects of your presentation towards the end was the focus on collaboration. You also showed a lot of associate enterprises that you would work together to provide the right kind of solutions to the customers. Do you think this is going to be a trend going ahead, where companies will look at a more collaborative approach rather than serving their customers in an isolation or doing it all alone?
Absolutely right. There's many specializations and skills required to get a really successful project together. PTC, we have a lot of great specialists, but we don't pretend that we've got the answer to every situation. So it's important for us to have that ecosystem. I think the customers we've worked with value it as well. Sometimes they have long-standing relationships with a particular consultancy or service agency that we can work with. Sometimes we can bring in specialists particularly on the operational transformation side. The actual connectivity to specific machines or controllers or assets. This is quite a specialist area, and bringing all that together into a cohesive team, that's key to success, and it's something we're doing all over the place.
Thank you. There's just one question if we can take, guys. The question is actually directed to Graham. Can I read it out to you, Graham?
Go ahead.
Sure. I can't see it, but please read it out, Niranjan.
Sure. So we are saying that digitalization is becoming a necessity today. But on the other side, the industry is facing a very tight market situation. How does rather PTC support its customers in this regard? Because you did mention that it is all about value first and not technology first.
I do understand, and I do absolutely sympathise with the situation. You know, I'm working with some customers today who've been really badly affected by the pandemic in terms of their market demand, in terms of their order book, in terms of their production rates are significantly down this year compared to where they would normally expect to be, and it's a hugely challenging time for them. What I would say is, in a lot of those situations, the customers are also looking at this as an opportunity to make changes, to get themselves in a situation where, when things start to ramp back up again, when we all get through this, they're in a much better situation, and they've taken the opportunity to put in place some changes, some new capabilities in their production, and this really puts them on a good footing to react very quickly when the market picks back up again. I can't name them, but there's some customers I'm working very closely with here in the UK who are doing exactly this.
Thank you, Graham. I think this humane approach is what makes great brands what they are. If you have time, we've got one more question which talks specifically about the PTC ThingWorx platform. The question is, PTC ThingWorx platform is being used for paperless factory or smart factory implementation. Can you please provide some insights on the same in the Indian context? Raj, if you will.
I think I would defer to Raj on this.
Yeah, I'm not entirely clear about what the question meant. I mean, PTC ThingWorx platform is an industrial IoT platform, and it's all capable in terms of not just getting the data from various different sources. That's not just devices, but also business systems, design systems, the cloud, existing data that's in the cloud, taking that and putting it into a model that's easily comprehensible, understandable, and then adding analytics and machine learning to it, and then making application development very easy with the platform. And also you can make sure augmented reality extensions are possible if that's required, because really IoT and AR are complementary technologies. So yes, paperless factory, we can totally digitalize or digitally transform your paperless environments with an all-capable platform like the ThingWorx platform. And if you're looking for let's say a supply chain visibility or supply chain integration throughout your ecosystem as a factory, then you should use an industrial grade platform, which is quite capable for all these things, which has inherent analytics capabilities, inherent AR capabilities as well, because for training and servicing, AR is going to be widely adopted. We've seen massive adoptions in recent times. So when you're making a choice for a platform, it should be all capable from all these aspects.
Thank you, Raj. I think it has been a very educative afternoon listening to our two experts, Graham Cox and Raj Kiran C from PTC. Wonderful interacting with you, gentlemen. I'm sure our audiences have a lot of value additions to take home from this session. Thank you once again, and have a great afternoon ahead.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Great to speak to you. Bye.
Thank you.